200 days! Can you believe it? Sure you can, because we didn't beat that polygon-based bastard known as the Overseer. So yes indeed, my dear viewers, welcome to my adventures back on the island, where, as the title suggests, we will spend 100 more days on my playthrough on Ark the Island. Last we left off, we had a solemn farewell after defeating the Alpha Broodmother, meaning that in these next 100 days, our goals are clear. We must defeat the remaining two guardians of the island, the Megapithecus and the Dragon, and with them defeated, we will need to best the Overseer. Of course, this is easier said than done, but that's what this video is for. Let's not keep you waiting and actually start this journey on Ark the Island once more. Please enjoy. We returned to the world for the first time in 3 months on day 101. Took me a minute to actually process that I was back, so I wandered around the map like a decapitated chicken before finally leaving for home. Though, as you probably learned in the last videos, I have ADD, so instead of that, I slammed my head around the map even more like a toddler on creatine as I did random shit for about 20 minutes. Eventually arriving home, I took some time to gather my bearings and situate what I would be doing for these next 100 days. I knew I wanted a Giga or a Karcha from the start, so whilst I was brainstorming on my tasks ahead, I crafted the necessary materials to make a Giga trap, 4 gateways and a bear trap for those who didn't know. Pretty quickly after I did my rounds around the base, I put myself on the task ahead. That was to tame a high-level male Rex for breeding for the boss army necessary for the Megapithecus and the Overseer. And with bosses on the mind, I also noted that I would need a decent level Therizino as well, and of course, the Giga. With the task in mind, I began my journey searching through the map, with little success, but I did find something that I thought I would need, and that was a turtle. Now you may be asking yourself, why would I need a turtle? Well, that is simply answered by the water caves. Now, no, I cannot run the water caves with a turtle, but I can use the turtle to get something that can. A Tusoteuthis, better known as that thing from Tentacle, the Kraken. Yeah! I wanted to tame one of those in order to run the water caves, which now I know are the caves of the Brute and the Cunning. So with all that in mind, I tamed the turtle, though while it was becoming my friend, I found that I had no cryopods on me, so I had to go get some. Leaving for home, I arrived on day 102, where I quickly grabbed the cache of cryopods and went back out to fetch the turtle. Took me a minute to actually find the turtle, but eventually I did, and I found it enduring some domestic violence, so I, being a good owner, committed a crime in return and did a murder on the turtle's abuser. After that, I continued my search for the needed dinos, which bore nothing. The rest of this day, I found nothing. Day 103, I found nothing. And take a guess what happened on day 104. Nothing! So I returned home on day 105, absolutely defeated. 5 days of searching to only find a damn turtle! Since the land wasn't doing me any favors, I decided to readjust my plans and dive down into the open oceans where I could go and attain me that tentacle head. The Kraken! So, I immediately began my adventures in the water, where I immediately bore some fruit, not a creature, but I found the entrance to one of the water caves, which I didn't even know was here. And the fact that it was this close to my base made it really convenient, though, because I'm an idiot, I decided to record it in my map anyways, just because I would probably forget it later. And to continue the mounting evidence against my intellectual capabilities, I decided to try and see what was in the cave, which, as you would suspect, was extremely stupid, as everything was extremely high level. Oh, it's 180? Okay, never mind. Let's not do that. So I bailed very quickly. Moving to later in the day, I ended up finding a squid, but it was bad level, so I had to kill it. I'm on. No. Even later on in the day, while I was traveling around, still looking for a Tuso, I ended up finding an Alpha Mosa. Now, you'd think that I would have learned my lesson from the countless poor decisions that I have made, but you'd be wrong there. Oh, can I fight that? With a shot.
A bullshit.
Oh god, I'm not outswimming that, am I?
Well, no fucking shit.
I should have it. Oh god, I don't think I got this. I don't think it's even weak. Yeah, no, I'm out of here.
I'm a genius!
Go up, go up, go up, go up, go up.
No! Get away from me! Stay away
Yeah, that, as I should have expected, went horribly wrong. But at least I escaped the red bastard's jaws. Wait, is that racist?
Probably.
Day 106, and we were still searching for the Duso, where I was still coping with the mental scarring from the Moza. And as usual, we didn't find much for a while, though later in the morning, I happened to finally acquire some of that old YouTuber luck, and found an undersea drop with an Ascendant Tuso saddle, which made my day as I didn't even have the saddle learned. And to continue my lucky spree, shortly after I found a high-level angler that I would totally use. Ooh, I think I just did that right after he passed out. With it tamed, I decided to try it out, which it did a good job at harvesting pearls, getting around 300 pearls per pearl. That doesn't English. Semantics aside, I went back out looking, where I was once again blessed by YouTuber luck, as I found a level 100 Tuso, so I quickly went about taming it. I quickly learned while taming it that turtle I tamed, yeah, I didn't even need it. Instead, I just used the shark as bait and tamed the squid pretty effortlessly. Yo! Taking note that my shark was incredibly weak from the Alpha Moza attack, I decided to continue the journey with the Tuso, as I also needed to level it up. And continuing into day 107, I did just that, getting it to an astounding 100,000 health, which I felt was the bare minimum for beating the water caves. And on my journey, I found a level 125 Moza, something that I really wanted, but I guess my Tuso didn't really get that memo. Stop. You motherfucker. Stop. Speaking of Moses, however, I ended up lapping the island with the Tuso and found an old acquaintance, the pesky undersea abomination known as the Alpha Moza. I figured that it would be a good way to test the Tuso's strength, so quickly I began to commit a felony. Oh wow, it's almost dead. Look at it. It's already bloody. I ended up killing it rather easily, finding that the Tuso was an absolute shredder, especially with its burst fire-like attacks. Unfortunately, nothing else happened under the sea from there on, so in day 108, having felt accomplished, I decided to return to base. Cryoing the Tuso, I threw it and my shark out in the lake out back behind my base, which surprisingly worked tremendously as a water pet. I also somehow got a second shark. Honestly, I don't really remember when. Leaving the Tuso out in the lake so it could heal, I decided to torture myself and look for X's. Again. Yay. Suffice to say, I found nothing for a while, and unfortunately, I didn't even find a Rex. Instead, I found a female fairy, which... not that I didn't need it, I did for the boss fight, for the dragon, but I really needed a male. Besides the point, I decided to tame it anyways, where it eventually tamed in the early morning of day 109, whereafter I again went out in search for X's. 5 entire days purely spent looking for Rexes, where we found nothing. Not a single good level Rex. The only, and I mean the only things we actually got were a level 100 Spino, which I got for El Muerte, a level 15 Megalosaurus, which I'm pretty sure got deleted when I reset the world to try and force Rex spawns, and another Tequetz, which really meant nothing besides a breeder for our previous one. But that was still pointless, as Quetzes at this point are useless, especially at low levels. So, after enduring literal hours of insanity, I decided to go back to the water with the presumption that it would be better. So grabbing the Tuso, I went out to the water and decided to run the nearby water cave. Entering the cave, I began clearing out as many creatures as I could, which included some alpha megalodons, but eventually I got access to the main chamber, where again I had to clear out some more leviathans, but eventually I got access to the second chamber. From there I had to clear another horde of beasts, but soon enough everything was dead and I found the artifact of the cunning before me. I was a little surprised, as I thought this would be the brute cave, but I was happy either way. Leaving the cave in the morning of day 115, I crowded the Tuso and went back to the land to look for Rexes. You would have thought I would have learned my lesson by now, which this time I actually did, because this time I settled. I found a level 65 male Rex, the highest I'd found the entire stream, mind you, and decided to tame. After a simple knockout routine, I grabbed the Rex and went back out, hoping to try and find a better level male, but even in the middle of day 116, I found nothing, so I just went home and logged off, finishing the first recording session of these 200 days. Returning on day 117, I went out with the Doid for stone, with the plan of making a structure on the compound. Now you may be asking, what structure would you even make? And to that I would answer, I had the aspirations to craft and place a tech replicator, meaning I needed a spot for it. Harvesting the stone, I returned home, where then I got the theory, harvested wood, and then repeated the process by grabbing my megaloceros and harvesting thatch. When all was done, I put them together and then went inside my house, scouring around for the necessary resources to craft the tech replicator, grabbing polymer, metal, and black pearls, leaving me with the last needed resource, crystal. I didn't have any, however, so I had to go to the nearby mountain and gather some. Yeah, in the way of my pen, you will lose your jaw. After we had the crystal, I took the RG, and in day 118, we went up to the obelisk to craft the replicator. With the replicator in hand, I returned home, where I began to breed the Rexes, with the initiative that I would need to breed the Rexes levels up to bring them to the boss fighting standard. Whilst they were breathing, I began crafting the structures that I would need to make a platform for the tech replicator, and soon after, I placed them and the tech replicator. Finally, we were in the tech tier. However, whilst I was breeding, the game crashed and I was reset to just after we crafted the replicator. After incurring a tough fall, literally, I was extremely frustrated to say the least, so I ended the second stream of the playthrough there. Returning on a new stream on day 118.2, to make up for the crash last stream, I immediately set out and crafted foundations for the platform necessary to place the tech replicator. Once they were done, I immediately went about placing them. Actions.
More work.
And once the replicator was placed, I emptied out all the resources from my fabricators and smithies, transporting them into the replicator as, well, I wouldn't need the smithies or the fabricators anymore. Finishing that up, I wanted to finally get my cryopod situation sorted out, so taking the cryopods out of the fridge that I had been storing them in, I began crafting a cryo fridge and polymer to craft even more cryopods, as if I didn't have enough of those already. I really didn't. And whilst the resources and fridges were crafting, I tended to the baby Rexes and decided to clean up the base. When all of my excess dinos were collected and the babies were tended to adequately, I finally placed the cryo fridges in place and put away all the cryopods I had hoarded during this playthrough. And whilst I was putting away the cryos, I found the Dimetrodon that I had tamed all the way back in day 60. And if you remember, I said I didn't know what to do with it. Well, with the Rex army breeding, I found a use for it. For those who don't know, the Dimetrodon acts like a living air conditioner, which normally electronic air conditioners are needed for hatching, but because I'm lazy, I decided to instead pump a bunch of levels into the Dimetrodon's melee stat, the stat which affects the conditioner effect quality, and use the spined back boy for hatching. And speaking of hatching, I had collected a decent amount of eggs and decided with the Dimetro to hatch them. So like a neglectful parent, I threw them next to a random babysitter. Which in this case, if in the wild, the babysitter would probably not even hesitate to eat them. Shortly after, due to my server settings, the baby Rexes began to start hatching, and unfortunately, they were all inadequate. 149. Yeah, you're all dead. After breaking several federal laws, I decided to break some more and illegally craft weapon ammunition. And once I was done with that, I decided to go on a polymer run to craft a ton of cryopods. So with the goal in mind, I actually went out on an expedition in the early morning of day 119, arriving at the Penguin Islands near sunrise, and, well, we did a Stalin. Eventually, after I killed and enslaved most of the native populations, I decided to leave fulfilled and filled to the brim with penguin polymer. I eventually got home in the earliest morning of day 120, where after I collected some of the Rex eggs, and I went to turn the penguin paste into cryopods, but unfortunately I didn't have crystal for them. So needing to leave for crystal, I got things ready to be left alone whilst I was gone, hatching the new eggs where one of them turned out to be a high-level male, so we no longer had a reason for that pathetic excuse of a wild male Rex. So with glee, I butchered it and made way for the next generation to take over operations. Then, with everything ready, I left for the crystal, arriving at the blue obelisk later that day, where I grabbed all the crystal I could find, and then dropped by the strong cave entrance for a little more before I returned back home at midday. Getting back, I immediately tended to the baby male Rex, and then followed that up by hatching some more baby Rex eggs that I had left over. Whilst they were hatching, I finally crafted a horde of cryopods with the crystal I got, and this time it was a breeze, as I could stack craft instead of having to craft each one individually. With the cryopods crafting, I checked on the Rex eggs and watched them hatch, though they were both useless. While I was chilling around the base, tending to stuff, I noticed that something was nagging one of my tames, and when I inspected it, I found a compy bothering my elk. But what was most interesting is that the compy was level 140, so I quickly knocked it out and found a new best friend.
And it does a cute little raptor imitation. That's adorable. You are my friend now. You are my best friend right now. You are my absolute bestest friend right now. Holy God, I love you now.
Later on, with the male Rex I was waiting on close to maturation, I decided to move it next to its mother, which, now in retrospect, would be breeding with her.
Oh! Ew! What the fuck?
After that, I went back out to kill some time, trying to find Carches, Gigas, and Theries, but nothing really happened. So on day 121, with the Tuso in hand, I decided to go and run the Cave of the Brute on the other side of the island. Getting into the water, I struggled to find the entrance, finding and killing an Alpha Mosa before finding the entrance, but eventually I found the cave, and I went inside.
Just looking around, there's two ways to go. I think they both lead the same direction. I guess they both did head to the same direction. It's in an area. No. Oh wow, it is resistant to this. Well, that is so convenient. Tuso should be able to fit. No. What am I doing? Kill anything in my wake. I want to see what's over here. And ooh, that's actually interesting. It's a Rockwell note. I don't like the damage output. Alright, I need to, like, get an out now. Oh, God. Why won't it run? Come on, let me out. Let me out of this death grip. Oh, my God, bro. So, yeah. Alright, head under there. Alright, let's not congregate all of y'all on me. Oh. Alright, and just... Okay, so first off, I can outswim anything in this cave. The other cave had more dangerous things other than, you know, the mantas. The mantas I am scared of. But, I want to see what's up there. Now, on ground, I'm very ferocious. I got a sword, I got guns. I can handle myself on ground. And I have a Spino, so it's like, if anything wants to mess with me on the ground, they're welcome to try. Yo! Tuso Toothus! Got the Tuso Toothus blueprint.
It sprays a cloud of ink into the surrounding water, blinding its attackers to...
I didn't get any drops here. I haven't seen any drops here, but I'd assume if I do get one, it'd be a very, very good one. That's a floating... I'm sorry, I can't just pass by that. That is a fish out of water. Buddy, you good? I don't think there's anything going on in there. Okay, get the fucking thing off, please. There's nothing between those eyes. Those eyes have nothing in them. That is borderline soulless.
On my way out of the cave, I ended up finding a red drop and nearly fainted when I saw what was in it. An Ascendant Shotgun Blueprint. I'd been looking one for ages, and now I'd finally had a blueprint, not to mention, it was relatively cheap, so now I would have something that could kill Gigas in my arsenal. I ended up leaving the cave in day 122, having spent about a day in there. And just outside of it, I found a level 95 Mosa, which I immediately went about taming.
I'm joking! Stop! 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 Stop the brake! Stop! Stop!
After it tamed, I decided to head back out into the water, figuring that I could find some more Mosas, but pretty soon after, I found a level 140 Basilosaur, which I couldn't pass up, so after clearing out the fleet of Mantas, I began the taming process. But about a half an hour in, I found that because of the way my server settings are set up, that I couldn't tame the Basilosaur for another several hours. So instead of waiting, I decided to tame it. I figured that it wouldn't hurt anyways, and since it was already pretty much tamed, I could just do it and save me time. If you don't really like this, I'm sorry, but bite me. And in day 123, whilst traveling around, I found a level 80 male Mosa, which I decided to tame for the female that I'd found earlier.
Max, what do you want for dinner?
Going around some more, I eventually found some things. First, an alpha Moza, which I killed, and later on, I found a level 110 female Moza. Almost as good as the first one I was going to tame, and unlike the first, my Tuso got the memo this time, and I tamed it with relatively little effort.
Watch out, Mozo!
And a little while after that, I decided, feeling accomplished with a Basilo, 3 Mozas, and an artifact in my pocket, that I would return to the land with my spoils. Getting to base, I found that the male Rex had fully matured, so I integrated it into the breeding operation and began, well, breeding. And immediately after that, I gathered the things that I would need to craft the shotgun blueprint I got in the cave, and after that, in the last minutes of day 123, I killed myself for some reason. Starting day 124, I finally crafted the Ascended Shotgun, equipping the monstrous weapon into my arsenal, and thereafter crafted the necessary ammunition. Moving on from crafting, I went back to the Rexes, collecting a clutch of eggs and bringing them to the Dimetrodon to hatch. Whilst they were hatching, I've decided to quickly place the Fruit of the Artifact on one of the pedestals and return when the eggs were about to hatch before me. After taking care of the babies and taking care of the inadequate ones, I then went to test out the shotgun and then returned again to hatch another egg where I spawn killed it like a camping bastard. Unfortunately, while taking care of the Rexes, the game ended up crashing and rolled back to the water's edge on day 123 once again. So I started day 123.2 and worked at regaining all what I had lost, which I had acquired by day 124.2. Whilst the stuff was crafting, I decided to put away the water dinos I had tamed during my journey earlier, throwing them all into the lake out back, and then after, returning back to base to hatch out more eggs, where one of them turned out to be a higher level male than their father, so I had to. Since the replacement needed time to mature, I decided to go out looking once again for more dinos, in which I've already said about 1,000 times, stopping after one mountain to check on the Rex, then returning to the search around the mountains. Out of boredom, I decided to run around the valley between the volcano and the eastern mountain on foot, where I did some joy killing and eventually found myself at the Chitin Cave. Again, since I was bored, I decided to run the cave on foot, killing some things, retrieving the artifact, and left the cave in due time. Continuing my journey on Mercy, I did some more searching, killing an alpha raptor on foot before I left the volcanic valley. Nothing happened, unfortunately, so on day 125, I returned home, and I found that the new male breeder had grown up, so yet again, I put the new Rex into the breeding rotation, and in an attempt to control the levels of my Rexes, I decided to fire the low-level female in my breeding line. Once again, whilst the Rexes were breeding, I decided to go out exploring where nothing really happened for a while, but while I was in the snow, I found a level 140 wolf, which I decided to tame for fun. Again, nothing happened for a while, so we just returned in day 126, relatively unaccomplished, but I didn't really care, as it was only really to kill time. I'd also kinda gotten numb to it. But either way, I began collecting eggs from the Rexes, starting with 2, and whilst they were hatching, I went and crafted the saddles necessary for the future army, crafting them in primitive as I didn't have a blueprint. Finishing, I tended to the Rexes again, hatching a level 217 female, which was okay, would have been better male, but at least I could double hatching rates again. But eventually, whilst hatching more eggs, I got a level 217 male to match, but that also meant after the cleanse, I'd finally obtained an adequate pair of army breeders. However, I needed to raise them to maturation, so I went out exploring yet again for tames. On day 127, I ended up finding a level 110 male Rex. Kinda late for that one, and I could have tamed it, but it was being harassed by Dimorphodons, and I already had taken the time to breed up the Rexes, so I just decided to kill it for being insulting. As nothing else happened, I returned to the base, finding that the Rexes were raised up, so I threw them into the breeding operation, which, in another bout of retrospection, they were breeding with both their mother and their great-great-grandmother, and they were siblings. So this was kind of absolutely disgusting! Leaving the Alabama family to breed, I went out dino searching, which I finally found a Korcha. It was level 10, which was disappointing, but a Korcha is still a Korcha.
Level, are you 15? I need like a level 75.
Get the fuck out of here, trash!
Well, that did something. Oh, God. It just got shot out to the ocean. I need to just order a new brain, because I hate when I think shit. So I gotta grapple. New. Alright, there's... Mercy. We gotta go. Go. Come down here, corpse. I need you to feed to a monster. Slow and steady.
Huh?
Here you go. Come and get it. Okay, come on. No. Oh. It's fine. Accept it with good faith and not cuck me. I can eat it. Yes! Alright, kill. Everything. Yes! Yes! Finally, the first Karcha had been redeemed, and with my new monstrosity tamed, I cryoed it and went back home feeling accomplished. Getting home, I collected Rex eggs and cleaned out my inventory, and then decided after to go out, looking for more creatures, but I bore no fruit and returned home in the early morning of day 129, where I was thoroughly exhausted and decided to earn the third stream there. Coming back in the fourth stream, I worked at crafting ammunition, and whilst that was crafting, I began Rex hatching, having collected a decent cache of Rex eggs for the army. And with that in motion, I then decided to throw out the Karcha that I had tamed the other day, admiring it and kind of feeling disappointed as it was really low level, and that started to get a little sore. Quickly getting bored of the Karcha, I thereafter decided to return to ammunition crafting, briefly checking on the eggs, where soon enough they began to hatch before me. I'm free! With the Rexes hatched, I spent the rest of day 129 taking care of them, making sure that they were fed and imprinted, so for that I will do a montage, as it's easier to edit and would probably be more entertaining. Walk around with me. That's 3, that's 4, 5... He's being a little obstinate about his... Oh, he wants a cuddle. That's what he wants. He wants a cuddle. What you want? You want to walk? You want to walk? Put your imprints. Go out. Exceptional kibble, I don't got that either. Here. Come on now. What you want? Prime fish meat? I don't got prime fish meat. But, you know, they'll learn. In time they'll learn. So, now what? Let's take all the raw. You do. Regular kibble. I don't got that. Yeah, I'm probably gonna do that. I'm gonna get them all organized, and then I'm probably going to test out the carts, go do a meat run so they're fed, and then I'm gonna go and start leveling them up. When they were finally grown up and saddled in day 130, I then realized that I would have another task, and that would be leveling them up. Now, I know we just did a caretaking montage, but in order to make the next couple days entertaining, we're gonna have to do another one, so please enjoy.
After leveling up the Rexes, I ended up taking a break on day 132, returning on a new stream where after I cleaned up my inventory and went about making the preparations to actually start fighting the bosses. My plan at the moment was to first refight the Broodmother on Gamma for some extra element, also just for some fun, and afterwards I would need to complete the Rex army, which at this point was almost completely done, where then I would go to fight the Megathicus, and eventually after gathering together a Theri army, I would go to fight the dragon. But in order to do any of that, I would need to gather together the tributes and the artifacts, so that's what I plan to do today. Grabbing my Rex, my Saber, my female Moza, and the Tuso, which I named like Kraken, I began my adventure for artifacts and tributes. Beginning with the Hunter Cave in day 133, I found the entrance, marked it on my map, and flew through the cave for the artifact. And for those confused why I can fly in the cave, I've always enabled flyers in caves just for ease of access. I normally don't use flyers, but since I was going to be rerunning the Broodmother caves, I would just make it convenient. I was also looking for Megalania for the Venom, and whilst I was looking for them, I ended up finding a Sleepy Boy in the cave, which I was quick to tame.
So I'm gonna knock it. Yep, that works. Alright, let's kill everything around it.
And later on, I acquired the artifact, which then I just left the cave, and went on to the next one, which was the Lava Cave. Doing the same strat as the Hunter Cave, I went in with Mercy, flying through, collecting the artifact, and then leaving, where shortly after, the game crashed, and reset back to the Hunter Cave. Figuring that since I had already ran the caves before the crash, I would just spawn them in, which I did, but then remembered that I still needed that Megalania Venom for the tribute, so I had to go into the cave either way. Also, I'd like to mention that the Sleepy Boy that I ended up getting got wiped, so we lost that. After acquiring the Venom and having all 3 artifacts for the Broodmother, I decided to go have some fun in the water and go run the undersea caves. I also needed to go get some tributes from underwater, so I figured 2 birds with 1 stone. Eventually, I found the Cave of the Cunning and quickly ran it with the Tuso, but whilst exploring in the cave, I found a level 150 Tuso. And because someone in chat said that creatures under level 151 could be tamed in normally untamable caves, which for the matter of fact they cannot, I tried taming it, and well, that didn't go well. Using El Muerte as bait, which for some reason I had him with me, I tried to tame it. However, it wasn't alone, so I ended up getting grappled and pulled into the mesh, which soon after, El Muerte was killed.
Well, that's fun.
Having felt like getting ripped into the mesh like I was being banished to the backrooms was a little bit unfair, I decided to use kill commands on the Tusos that were trying to kill me, and ended up just swimming back to my Tuso. And I'd also like to preface, I know I've been using a lot of cheats these past couple days, but to be honest, I really couldn't give a fuck whether you care. Ark kept on glitching out on me, I wasn't having any of its bullshit, so I just used its code against itself because it was trying to sabotage me at every waking moment with crashes and glitches. Leaving the cave in the late night of day 134, I went back to the Moza that I had left outside and went around traveling, going on into day 135, where nothing happened until we got to the Brute Cave, which I decided to run as well. Running the cave quickly, I collected the artifact and returned to the Moza, where, to be honest, I had grown super exhausted of the water, so I just went back to the land. I dropped by home briefly in order to organize myself, where after I picked up a Megatherium from Greenup to go run the Cave of the Immune. It was one of the last artifacts that I needed to fight the dragon, so I went about running it at my leisure, finding the cave in the Redwoods, where I marked its coordinates, and entered it.
And so I'm just gonna go in with the Megatherium.
So while the footage plays in the background, I'd like to take the time to apologize for both the screen quality and the frame rate. If you've made it this far, you have by far and away noticed the inconsistency of the FPS and the image quality. I'd again like to apologize and explain why it's like this. So for those who don't know, all of this footage was recorded on Twitch, as it's the only way for me to mass record, as I play all of this on an original Xbox One.
What the fuck?
Yeah, all of this footage was captured from a 5-year-old Xbox from the oldest part of the last generation of consoles. To say the least, the quality is pretty bad. Anyways, returning to caving, I cleared out some of the chambers with thousands of bugs in each, where soon I found a crawl space, which curiosity got the best of me. Going in on foot, I ended up getting ambushed by a bunch of bugs, which, because Ark just hated me these past couple of streams, it glitched me into the floor. Feeling cheated, as I literally couldn't retaliate, I was stuck in the floor, I decided to just ghost out of the cave and call it a stream, having been completely exhausted by all the game-breaking glitches that had happened in this game.
Returning on the 6th stream, I cleaned out my inventory from my journey's last stream, which, speaking of, I really wanted to make up for my mistakes last time, especially in the Swamp Cave, so after gathering my bearings, I immediately set out to the Redwoods to go run the Immune Cave. Arriving at the entrance, I went in with extreme caution to make sure that I didn't get caught out again like I did last time, and for sure that worked, as I made my way through the cave with few hitches were the only times where I had even the littlest bit of trouble, or when I had to clamber through little caverns that the Megatherium couldn't fit through, but even so, I made sure to place my beast conveniently at the closest exit so I could make a quick escape if I had to.
Shut your stupid.
Eventually making my way through the entire cave, I finally arrived at the artifact, the illustrious blood red artifact of the Immune. My personal favorite out of the bunch. Having the artifact in hand, I was quick to make my way out of the caverns, luckily with no hitches in that endeavor either, where I eventually exited the cave. Leaving it behind in the afternoon on Mercy, I decided to spend the rest of day 136, I forgot to mention that day 136 started when we were in the swamp cave the first time, looking for Thylaclaws. There we go. Finishing up and getting back home in the early morning of day 137, I organized my inventory once again, which at this point had become ritual, where after I decided to prepare to run the Cave of the Strong. Grabbing infrared to go run the cave, I left shortly after, flying around until I arrived in the middle of day 137. Going into the cave, I walked through the entrance chamber and threw out infrared in the first main chamber, where after a small hiccup, I began to shred through the cave, melting through hordes of beasts until infrared began getting low, where after I finished the cave on the Rex. After collecting the artifact, I left the cave shortly after in the earliest morning of day 138, getting home at sunrise where I did my ritual and found that we needed meat to feed the dino, so I spent some time on a meat run, where then I decided to pretty up the artifact area, which was partly due to the fact that I wanted to collect together the artifacts needed to go run the Brood Mother, which shortly after, with infrared healed, I went about doing, arriving at the Green Obelisk shortly after, where I started the boss fight on Gamma for Element. Here we go! Let's get some Element. Only 20 element, damn. In the end, we defeated the boss, and it was pretty easy, done in under a minute, and to continue the underwhelmingness of the situation, we only got 20 element.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
Taking a break with the Brood Mother checked off the list, I returned on the 7th stream, where, to be honest, I spent all of it, and I mean all of it, raising, imprinting, and leveling Rexes, which this went into the late day of 141, and even after taking a break from the 7th stream, I returned on the 8th stream and continued this process into day 143, where I finally went back home with the Rex army completely finished. And with the army completed, I had all that I needed for the boss fight against the Megapithecus, at least I thought. So I cryoed the army. Pretty cool show. But they gathered together all the artifacts I thought I'd need to summon it, and went to the Blue Obelisk with the army in hand. Though when I got there, I'd forgotten a few things, so I had to do a couple trips, but after all of that, I had gathered everything, and I was ready for the boss. Wait, is it... Artifact of the Pack. Artifact of the Pack? What's that? So... yeah... I had no idea that the artifact of the pack was on the island, but after doing some research, I found where it was, and departing soon after, I arrived at it in day 144. Figuring the cave would be easy, I ran it on foot, entering the cave with the shotgun, and just as I surmised, other than the layout being a little confusing, the cave was extremely easy, where soon enough I collected the artifact and made my way out in day 145. And with this final artifact, I now had everything I needed, so I went to go fight the Megapithecus. No, you're fine. We're gonna let you go over there. Over there. Stop. Get on infrared. Over there. Okay, over there. Okay, and all follow me. Come on. Go fight the Mega Monkey. Oh wait, I think I got this in the bag like no diff, do I? Don't I? Yeah, it's a Carbonames. Nobody really knows how to... Wow, I just killed the Mega Monkey like it was nothing. Well... Well, it's still, like, nerve-wracking, but it's like, yeah, it's really cool.
We won! The Rex army stood victorious and we had successfully collected the head of the Mega Monkey. We had only the dragon to fight now, which after cleaning out my inventory at base in day 146, I worked to that end. To fight the dragon, there were two main problems that I'd have to overcome. I would need 2 gigahearts, which would be a little bit of a problem as gigas and karchas aren't exactly the most common thing to find, but apparently the second thing I needed was even rarer, and that was a male fairy to breed a boss army.
I just need to go for Therazinos.
I went out searching, where as usual, we found nothing for a while, until day 147, where I had found a level 80 male fairy. And learning my lesson from the Rexes, I decided to settle taming it quickly.
Alright, you are tamed, you are level 119.
But even though we had the theory, I still needed the gigahearts. So I went back to searching, scouring the whole map over, where eventually on the slopes of the Blue Obelisk Mountain, I found a karcha, which I proceeded to kill.
Wow, that was a lot easier than expected.
With it dead, I collected the heart and went about searching again, but found nothing. So I went home to clean out my inventory, but I was still unsatisfied. I really wanted a better theory, so with nothing better to do, I went out searching again, but alas, I found nothing. Nothing! Until day 148, where I found a really good level Utyrannus, which I decided to tame. After taming it, I returned to my search, but as usual, I found nothing good. So I went home, and feeling that I deserved to have some dumb fun with all the bullshit that I had to endure, I goofed off a little bit at base. And ironically, whilst goofing off, I found a level 100 male fairy essentially in my backyard, which I was happy about and quickly tamed.
I'm gonna rip you apart! I want to apologize.
And with the fairy tamed, I felt good, but I wasn't quite ready to go to work yet, so going out on mercy, I went out to goof off at the nearby mountain, where irony struck once again when I found a wild, high-level breeding pair of Rexes, which to be honest, were about 50 days late to the party. No matter how I felt though, I still went about taming them, where both ended up becoming my friend later on in the day, and with this luck, I felt like looking around the island again, but I didn't really find anything, so I ended up taking a break in the early morning of day 150. Halfway to day 200, and if you've watched this far, I'd like to ask you if you're willing to subscribe, as it's literally free, doesn't mean anything to you other than you get to see my content more, if you've liked, because again, same thing as subscribe, and if you've shared it, because I know it's a little bit of effort, but sharing it really does help with the algorithm, and also if your friends are anything like you, they'll get a kick out of this one. I returned on stream 9, where I went and began to breed the theories I had to work at acquiring a prime breeding pair. And whilst I was gathering together the best theories I had, I found one of them was encumbered with wood, so I quickly put all of it into the forge to make it a charcoal. Whereafter, I got together the theories to breed. However, I still was very worried that even these theories wouldn't be enough to breed boss fighters, so I went out to try and find another one, gathering tributes while I was at it, and I didn't really have any success finding a theory, but I did find a high-level male Spino, which would be suitable for replacing El Muerte, so I tamed that. But unfortunately, that was the only thing that I could actually attain, so I ended up giving my searches in day 152 and took a break. Returning on the 10th stream, where I began by cleaning up my inventory and repairing my gear, where I found that I had a lot of chores to do around base, which I should have figured as I had left most of them neglected for around 50 days. So starting with my chore fest, I went out with the Bronto to go get narco berries for narcotics and get an extra cache of berries to feed the baby fairies when I eventually would start breeding them. Which then, in early day 153, after having attained the berries, I worked at creating a large cache of narcotics. And whilst they were crafting in the background, I went around base gathering together the tames that I would need to do a flint, metal, and obsidian run for polymer and gunpowder, grabbing the Doed, the Yankee, and my main RG, which I finally decided to name Pop Rocket. Then with them gathered, I started the flint run with Pop Rocket and the Yankee.
Wow. You're a rock. Next. Ba, 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 ba. It's 14.
Where when I finished, I grabbed the flint and had found that the narcotics had finished crafting, so I began crafting spark powder. Then whilst the spark powder was crafting, I went around base, taking a bunch of resources from the vaults and placing them into the tech replicator. And then later in day 154, I had exhausted the resources to craft more spark powder, and with a huge cache at my disposal, I went to start crafting gunpowder, collecting my huge cache of charcoal and turning it into gunpowder.
And whilst the gunpowder was crafting, I decided to do something to kill time and have some fun by breeding the tech quetzes that I had in an attempt to get a better male than iron quetz, where soon after I grabbed the first egg and threw it out to hatch. And whilst it was hatching, I went to go look at the gunpowder crafting, finding that I had gotten a huge stock, so I took a decent chunk of it and brought it to the replicator, where I began crafting a ton of ammunition. Thereafter, I returned to the egg, finding that the child was, well, disappointing. Then I returned to the chemistry bench, finding that I had crafted enough gunpowder, so I cleaned it out and put the gunpowder into the vaults. And whilst I was doing this, I had hatched out some more quetz eggs, but they were unimportant. After cleaning out the chem bench, I then began the next phase of my chores, which was a massive metal run. Bang. Oh. Bang. My mic's off. The servers are
120. Why wouldn't the I think thing is like
interval mine at like giga, you know.
setting up a 30.
Putting them snail's pace even in the wild, that would be hilarious. I gotta try that. The run lasted into day 155, where I finally went home and put the metal into the forge, but I still wasn't done, as I also needed to do that obsidian run. So with the pop rocket and the doed, I went out to go do that. I'm gonna go get a bunch of obsidian so I can have a unhealthy supply of polymer.
Yeah, I thought Doedic was just for stone. I didn't
Fucking you are you fucking you bloody bastard bitch you bloody fuck you bloody fucking mother bloody fuck bitch.
I'm these like video tattoo bird pop rocket had like set they Eventually, I finished the obsidian run in day 156, where I went home with a huge cache of it, and a lot of extra metal. For those who don't know, doeds are exceptional at getting metal from obsidian nodes. So I put the metal into the forge, and the obsidian into the replicator, where I began to craft a ton of polymer. And with nothing else to do at base, still not wanting to breed the theories I had, I went out to go taming and tribute hunting whilst the polymer was being crafted. It was day 157 when I had found a karcher around one of the mountains, and still needing a second gigan heart, I killed it. Now it tanks right now. Dies. Almost dead. It's dead. And when it died, I briefly dropped by home to ensure the tribute was safe, returning to my search afterwards, where at the end of the day, I ended up finding a level 135 female fairy, which I tamed going into day 158.
What?
Yeah, Going home with a new fairy, I finally relented and began the tedious process of breeding them, where the laborious process of acquiring a decent male to replace the current one went into day 159, where I had finally acquired a decent male fairy for the breeding army. So with that, I went out with one of the fairies to go on a wood and hide run for a special project. With the dragon being the last boss I had to fight, the looming prospect of the overseer fight had become a bit unbearing. I knew I needed to prepare for it, and a dangerous hurdle to that was ensuring that none of my dinos would fall to the lava pit at the cave entrance. My plan to get around it was to craft and place a bunch of rafts over the lava to mitigate any damage from the lava to my tames. And this hide run to craft these rafts ended in day 160, where I went home and found that the prime male had grown up, but since I had already went about and crafted the rafts, and to ensure my plan would be carried out, I went out with Pop Rocket to the volcano to go and place the rafts. For the most part, it went to plan, though when I finished it turned out to be a little messy, but at least I thought it would work well enough to act as a barrier to the lava. Besides that, I went home, arriving in day 161, where after cleaning out my inventory, I finally began breeding the Therizino army. Or so I thought, as the first egg that hatched turned out to be a far higher level male than its father, so I killed the parent and let the baby be raised to become the new prime breeder. And since the baby needed to raise, I went out looking for a giga to kill time, figuring I wouldn't find one fast, which in fact it turned out to be not at all, unsurprisingly, but I did find a high level doed which I tamed. Undertone.
They call it Morningstar.
It ended up taming in day 162, where after I went home and found that the male theory was almost grown. So I waited around at base until it fully grew at sunrise, and with it grown, I began to breed the boss army. And whilst waiting for the theories to breed and for eggs to hatch, I went out into the fields nearby and ended up taming a Diplo out of boredom. And when I got back, I found that one of the theories that hatched was a higher level female than its mother, so yet again, I replaced it with its mother. And no, I didn't kill the mother this time. What do you take me for? Yeah, you're all dead. Anyways, in day 163, I decided while I was waiting for the female theory to grow that I'd go out to the water for more tributes, mainly looking for alpha leadies and tusos for the alpha overseer. Yeah, I was going all out for this playthrough. It took a minute to find one, but ironically, whilst I was cleaning out my inventory, an alpha leadie emerged from a rock. Screams featuring lettuce.
Oh, you've already done one of those.
Have I done a perfectly cut scream? That's an alpha lead sickness. About damn time.
Moby, hit him with it.
So I killed it. Then found another. Killed that one. Then found an alpha Moza too.
That's a fact.
In day 164, I had ended up lapping the island and got to the Cunning Cave, which I decided to go run, hoping that maybe an Alpha Tuso would spawn in there. None did, so I ended up leaving empty-handed, and because I was exhausted, I ended the 10th stream after cleaning my inventory at base there. Returning on the 11th stream, I immediately worked at breeding the Theory army, wanting to have it completed and ready to fight the dragon before day 170. Though because Ark is Ark, the egg laying ended up glitching out, so I didn't actually get started until day 165, where an egg finally laid and I went about hatching it. Where when all the breeding started, I spent all of today, day 166, day 167, and day 168 raising, imprinting, and organizing fairies, where when most of them had grown into adults, I began the tedious process of leveling them up, which that went into the middle of day 169. But after I was finished leveling them, the army needed time to heal, so I decided to go kill some time and search for a Giga whilst they were healing. And later on, I did end up finding a Karcha, but unfortunately it wasn't to my standard, and thinking that having a backup part would be worth it, I decided to kill it. Ooh. Why could you climb that? That is scary. Unfortunately, like most times I go out looking, I went home in day 170 empty-handed. And when I got home, I also found that the Theories needed extra time to heal, so I decided to go try and look out for Gigas again, but this time employing a new strategy. Normally what I would do is just fly around the map hoping that something would spawn, but this time I decided to go to just one mountain, search it over, and kill all the spawns over and over again until I got what I wanted, which this went about into day 171, where I found a beautiful high-level tech Rex, which gave me some hope, but that was false, because even into day 172, nothing good besides that Rex had spawned, so having been exhausted of killing just a bunch of stuff for about 2 hours straight, I decided to return home, where finally I had found that the Theory army had healed all the way, so I crowded them all up to prepare them to be transported to the Red Obelisk to have them ready to fight the dragon. And figuring I had nothing else left to do, I also grabbed Infrared, the tributes, and the artifacts needed to go and summon it. Though before I'd fight it, I wanted to ensure that there would be no possibility for loss, so before I would fight it, I planned to do a leveling run around the southern inlets. So with that planned, I carried it out, bringing the tributes and most of the artifacts to the obelisk, then throwing the Legion near the beach, where after collecting the forgotten artifact for the boss fight, I began the hunting expedition going into day 173. Clearing out the southern isle, the hunting expedition lasted all day, where finally after finishing and leading into day 174, I brought the Theories to the obelisk, and by midday, I had them all brought under the obelisk. However, I was still unsure if I'd win. Mainly, I had a fear that the fire could kill me off my mount, so to ensure my victory, I went home and went about making and placing an industrial cooker in day 175, where I began to make a ton of medical brews, and later on, when the healing brews finished, with all the needed preparations and the confidence to fight the dragon, I went to the obelisk and began the fight against the last guardian of the island. Okay. Well, let's kill this thing. Oh, what the heck? One more time. And here we go. We are now fighting the dragon, and hopefully I won't die. Alright, there's the dragon. Move. Alright. Oh god, there's multiple of them. Ow. Oh, stop. Do not get me stuck in a corner. Ooh, Alright, I beat the dragon. Oh. It didn't feel fast, not at all. Well, it felt fast to me, and the bastard spit me in the face with fire, so I'm anxious now. In the end, we ended up beating the monstrous thing, and it definitely made up for its namesake as the strongest of the Guardians, but in the end, we defeated it all the same. though I could not take too much pride for this victory, as an overwhelming sense of dread crawled down my spine as we still had one monstrous hurdle to overcome to defeat the Overseer. So with that on the mind, I returned home, put away the trophy head of the dragon, geared up with tech, and prepared to go collect the last tribute I would need to fight the Overseer, an Alpha Tuso Eye. But even with the tech helmet buff, I couldn't find a single Alpha Tuso. Searching for such a long time that we had gotten to day 177, where I still couldn't find one, so I decided to take a break, ending the 11th stream just before day 178 with the daunting task weighing heavy on my shoulders. Returning on the 12th stream with day 178 quickly coming to be, I ended up leaving the water in search of a Giga in an attempt to allow for spawns to fill in the ocean. Of course, as usual, the search didn't really pan out, so later in the day I returned to the ocean to try and search again. This endeavor went into day 179, where after having no success out in the open water and finding an Alpha Tuso, I decided to go and try and look for one in the underwater Brute Cave. Though once again, I found myself disappointed as I found nothing worth of note within the caverns. Leaving the place behind later that day, and with having little success under the water, I decided to go out and search around for a Giga again. And this time, I finally found one on one of the slopes of the easternmost mountain. And hecky tall. Giga! Wow, it was low level in the end, but I was happy that I at least had a Giga in my creature collection now. And afterwards, I ended up searching around land up until day 180, where I threw my chances to the water once again, but unfortunately, other than killing a few Alpha Moses and retrieving an Undersea drop which had an Ascendant Moses saddle in it, I had little luck in finding anything. That was until day 182, where while looking around, I finally found it, an Alpha Tuso. Please, Alpha, please, Alpha, please, Alpha. Yes! With it dead, I now had the eye, which I proceeded to immediately bring it to land, stashing it away with pride, where I logged off shortly after and returned on the 13th stream with everything that I would need to go fight the Overseer. And since I had gathered all the tributes, I decided that on this stream that I would gather my boss armies and get them lined up and ready to go fight the boss. So having logged off at the Blue Obelisk, I collected the Rex army, brought them to the volcano on day 183, and worked at placing them in a fashionable order before the tech gate. And when I finished lining them up, I dropped by base briefly to gather infrared and an extra Rex I had left at base, whereafter I went to the Red Obelisk and collected the Therizino army, bringing them to the volcano in the afternoon, where I began placing them in a line, finishing the lineup in day 184. And with that finished, I had a little else I'd need to do to prepare for the boss fight, but I was still feeling really nervous, and having 16 days until I absolutely had to fight the thing, I decided to take some time and goof off, going around the island, playing around until it crashed, where the world rolled back to just after I had finished placing the Rexes. Of course, not feeling too pressed, I logged off for that day, returning on the 14th stream, where again, feeling that I wasn't quite ready for the boss fight ahead, I decided to spend all of my time having some fun in the world before I tried to overcome the task. Beginning in day 184, again, I went out and tamed an Ala for some fun. Then whilst around the Redwoods in the afternoon, I tamed a Microraptor. In early day 185, I finally found and tamed an Otter, which I adored. Then later that day, I went to Carno Island, killed a Rex with my shotgun, and decided to go into the Cave of the Devourer, where I ended up taming a Megalosaurus and a Megalania. Then just before day 186, I logged off that stream. Returning on the 15th stream, where I quickly began doing some chores to kill time, as is what I did for most of this stream in fear of fighting the Overseer. The anxiety crawled down my spine all that day, even as I went around taming and goofing off all the way to day 190, where I logged off and returned on the 16th stream. On that day, I knew that I couldn't delay it any longer. There was nothing else to do, nothing more that I could do, but to finally begin the fight against the Overseer. So, after cleaning through my base and doing one final search around the mountains, I gathered the boss heads, the tributes, some extra ammunition, and set out to the volcano, arriving shortly after, where I placed the tributes and opened the door. Entering with infrared, I walked in to begin the arduous journey, but if you're observant, you may have already realized my atrocious mistake. I hadn't whistled the Rex behind me to follow, and so I set into the cave alone. Wait, the army. Discovering my mistake, in a panic, I tried to get as many things into the cave as possible, but in the end, I only managed to get a few creatures into the cave with me. Hope was now thin. It seemed like this run may have died before it started, but alas, there was no turning back. So with my limited dinos, I proceeded through the cave, receiving encumbering losses until eventually, with only a Rex and a Theria at my side, I arrived at my final obstacle, the Giga, which guarded the gateway to the arena. To best the beast, I knew I would need to shoot it from afar, but in my haste and panic and anxiety, I slipped from my mount and fell down to the lava. I barely survived the fall, but found that one of my Therias had fallen down there as well. There was one last ray of hope. The only way to escape my tomb was to wade through the lava on the Theria's back and hope that I could cross unscathed. So, with nothing else to do, I began to swim. But it was too deep, and I was quickly consumed by the lava's waves. Yeah, believe me when I say I know that this was the worst possible ending that you or I could have imagined. I had failed miserably, and I didn't even make it through the entrance of the cave. And in the end, I failed and died in less than spectacular fashion. But alas, that is how art goes. For those who stuck around to the end, I would like to thank you and apologize for both the underwhelming conclusion and the inconsistent quality of the video, as said earlier. If you found that this video was enjoyable, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It would mean a lot, and with that, I would like to leave you with the question: what's next?